USC beats Michigan State in a Big Ten after dark matchup in Los Angeles. 45-31 final score in favor of the Trojans. Michigan State with a little bit of a backdoor cover there. USC goes up 45-21. Chiles has a bomb down the sidelines for a late score to make it 45-31, and USC just doesn't score after that. It was a interesting game where USC was the better team through 60 minutes. Before we resume this segment, some great and free ways to support this channel are liking the video, watching it all the way through, commenting your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear your analysis, sharing the video, subscribing to the channel, and also hitting the notification bell. That way you can get notified when we go live or release new content. And don't just hit the notification bell for the channel. That's very helpful. But what's also helpful and free and useful to you, if you are a diehard fan of a specific team and want to get notifications whenever I make content about a specific team, not just my content in general, well, we have playlists for every Power 4 college football team. So the notification bell on any of those playlists you are interested in. If you want to support the channel financially, there are ways to do so in the description, and you can sign up as a paid member. And by the way, shout out to Amari Kelly for the long touchdown and Krishawn McCray for a 42-yarder earlier in the game. Shout out to Nick Marsh for playing, even though he was banged up and reported as questionable entering this game. Michigan State's wide receivers are tough, man, and they're really good. And Chiles is tough too. He is one tough nut to crack, and he is so much better than he was last year. It's the same thing with USC. That was my takeaway in this game, is that both the Trojans and Spartans are better than they were last year. They have some issues to clean up, and we'll get to that throughout this segment, but they are fielding right now superior quality than they did last year. I would argue superior quantity too. They're deeper. Michigan State had some injuries in this game, and they didn't quit. They have faced a lot of adversity already. Huge part of it is they're still rebuilding from Mel Tucker's disaster. There were some Michigan State fans calling for Tucker's firing at halftime. I'm thinking to myself, what are you doing? This team, through 4 games, is clearly better than last year's team. Mel Tucker tanked the program. They could have been the worst Power 4 team in 2023. May have been, and probably certainly were, the worst program at that point. With the Tucker debacle, the fact that their former athletic director, Alan Haller, was still in charge, and he got released shortly after that 2023 season. In this preseason, actually, and then Michigan State upgraded at AD. They upgraded at staff. They've upgraded their roster here. But it is a long way to go to get to a point where you're competing for Big Ten championships and college football playoff berths. For USC, I would argue it's a little bit of a ways to get there too, especially national championship contention, which USC wants. They're a playoff contender right now. Wouldn't say they're a Big Ten championship contender, but with their schedule, there is a chance, there is a draw where they could end up in Indy. Curt Cignetti's name was thrown around a lot in this game by Spartan fans on Twitter, and I just want to say, A, no one can beat Curt Cignetti. B, he had a winning program where he could bring his players from, and because it was a lower level program like James Madison, and that also goes for his staff too, his players and staffers weren't going to be as sought after as Jonathan Smith's from Oregon State. They just weren't going to be frank. Oregon State had a lot of players, Damian Martinez, for example, who went to Miami. Some players went to USC. I know others went to Florida, for example. Or maybe, no, I was thinking of Washington there, and Kalen DeBoer's Washington team. You get the point, though. Cignetti, I think, is a better coach than Jonathan Smith. Not everyone can beat Curt Cignetti, but Cignetti moving from G5 to P4 is an easier transition in the portal era than P4 to P4, because your roster isn't going to be as poached. It's not going to be as sought after. Same with the staff. And that benefited Cignetti. Same with them having an easier schedule last year to get momentum. and Michigan State didn't benefit from those things. Still think Indiana's much better than Michigan State. I'd actually say much better than either of these teams right now. But I just wanted to get that out of the way. I think that both of these staffs are fantastic, and both of these teams are better than they were last year. USC is clearly the better team in this matchup. That's why they won 45-31. That's why they led for the entirety nearly of the game. Since 2:38 in the first quarter, they led by often double digits for the remainder of the matchup. Michigan State kept things interesting, and I hope that I pray that Wayne Matthews is healthy. That was a brutal injury. Michigan State responded in spite of that. In the third quarter, they made it 31-24, forced a fumble, took advantage of USC penalties. They ran the football pretty effectively, and they made it interesting a bit. Kept my eyes on it until the game ended, honestly. If this was a blowout at halftime, I would have turned it off and went to bed because I sacrificed some sleep to watch that game. But for Chiles to have 225 passing yards and 9.8 yards per attempt, for Maiava to have 234 and 9 yards per attempt through the air, for MSU to run for 4 yards per carry, USC 7.6. This game was a slightly lower scoring variation of what I thought would happen. I thought that USC would score in the 50s, 60s, Michigan would score in the 30s, 40s. Michigan State did score in the 30s, low 30s, off a late touchdown throw. USC scored 45, but they at one point led 45-24. So the game went, honestly, kind of as I thought it would. USC is the better team. It's a tough game for Michigan State. They should have never been expected to win here. Just expected to not quit and make it interesting. I think that was the expectation for Michigan State, the correct one. And they did. They gave up 3 sacks, and Chiles got pressured fairly often. But Chiles, I criticized his pocket awareness against Western Michigan and BC. I don't know what they did against Youngstown State or what they told him, or maybe USC is just that fundamentally unsound, and there's a possibility that's the case. But he did a very good job of evading pressure, an excellent job of evading pressure. And both teams ran quite well in power rushing situations where you need to, that's where it's 2nd and 2, 3rd and 2, you need 2 yards to pick up a first down or score a touchdown, and you need to convert there. Michigan State ran power rushing, and they had a 75% success rate there on rushes where they needed 2 yards or fewer. USC, unsurprisingly, had a 100% power rushing success rate. USC was 8 of 11 on 3rd down, Michigan State 5 of 11. USC 1 of 2 on 4th down, Michigan State 0 of 1. It's just a game where talent-wise, USC was almost always going to beat Michigan State in this scenario. What I think was admirable about Michigan State's effort is if this were a game played in East Lansing, noon Eastern time, so 9 a.m. USC, so everything that went USC's way, the kickoff and the travel went Michigan State's way, USC could have won. That stuff can sometimes lead to double-digit point swings. Believe me, if Oregon had to travel to Ohio State mid-season last year, they still would have exposed parts of Ohio State's defense and caused Jim Knowles to make adjustments, but Ohio State probably would have won that game by double digits, with the crowd going in their favor, with Oregon having to make the travel and face the jet lag. Ohio State probably wins that game. Here, it probably would have been a 1-score USC win, close for 60 minutes, or a 1-score Michigan State win if this were played in East Lansing. Not trying to make moral victories out of this here, but there were things to be impressed by with Michigan State too. The question with Michigan State is, A, have they improved? I think the answer is yes, but also that goes into question B, will they continue to improve? Can, with their depth and roster, they sustain a Big Ten schedule? Can they keep their head above water? Can they tread water and pull off a few upsets? For USC, it's whether or not their defense can mature, because I have news for you. With this defense, you are not beating some of the tougher teams on your schedule. You are not beating Oregon with the effort you put forth. You aren't. There's a chance Illinois can beat you with the effort you put forth late last night. Michigan, the more I look at USC's defense, and their run defense specifically, the more I like Michigan's offense in that matchup. And that's scary because I've said for months, Michigan's not beating USC. just based on USC getting a bye, Michigan having to make that travel, and me thinking that USC has a better staff in terms of game planning and game management than Michigan does. That matchup looks more favorable in the Wolverines' direction than I ever thought it could. After how they ran on Nebraska, ran on CMU, ran on New Mexico, no one can run in Oklahoma. No one can. Michigan, in fact, if they ran Underwood in that game, would have ran fairly admirably in Oklahoma. They just got 10 sacks on Auburn and limited Auburn's rushing attack fairly well, given they were on the field for the whole game. That's an awesome Oklahoma defense and defensive front. USC is building towards that. I think one day, whether next year or the year after that, they will have an elite defense with Lynn and his staff. They do not have the players right now, and there is something off about them discipline-wise. Both, don't get me wrong, I'll reinforce this, both have improved from 2024. Michigan State's power rated higher than they were last year. USC is as well. They are deeper, they are better coached, they are more focused, they're going in the right direction. It's not like Wisconsin, for example. But despite that, there are things that you do want to see. It's not like these teams are going in such clear, correct directions that you should be fine with everything that happened. USC's rushing offense is insane. Through 4 games, they're averaging 7 yards per carry. This is a Lincoln Riley offense. Last year was not. The first 2 years at USC were. This is the 3rd year at USC where Riley is running his offense, and his play calling is elite. I'd argue it's better than last year. I think that hiring a general manager, getting a better strength and conditioning coach, I think that all of those things, and then Lynn and his staff being in a second year, means that he can delegate more responsibility and focus more on play calling. And you see that in Maiava. Maiava's 13 touchdowns through 4 games and no interceptions. I don't even think he has a single turnover to his name. He's playing like a Heisman caliber quarterback. He's playing like an NFL quarterback. But when I look at these defenses here, and this is where the negatives are, Michigan State can't stop a nosebleed unless it's a turnover or unless occasionally they call a really good play and therefore their lack of talent doesn't matter. They just read the play correctly, like that 1 4th down they stopped with USC, where they tackled well, they read it well, they were in the right coverage, but you can't rely on that happening every play. You're not always going to be in the perfect coverage. You're not always going to have the perfect play call. They are severely limited roster-wise on defense, Michigan State is. And I would say that's worse than some other teams' problems, such as Michigan State's biggest rival, Michigan, where Wink Martindale just needs to review more film and continue to make adjustments as he did last year, where the defense got better as the year went on. He kept trying new things. They were stupid. He eventually went away from them. The defense improved. I think that's what Michigan will continue to do. You'd rather have a play caller who sometimes gets in his own head, as long as it's not always, than a roster that's always limited. And that's what Michigan State has on defense. With USC, I think that's also what they have, but to a better degree. It's not as severe. But they struggle to consistently stop the run, and their secondary and tackling and fundamental soundness just isn't there yet. I think this is a deeper defense and a defense that has a higher ceiling than last year's unit. It's probably better as well, but I want to see more out of it. As of right now, I'm a little bit, just a little bit, not a ton, but a little bit disappointed in this defense so far through 4 games. I think both of these teams, obviously USC, but both of them will go bowling. Still believe in Michigan State and Jonathan Smith and think they have one of the best staffs in America. They're just roster limited. If you don't believe me when I say their staff is awesome, look at their offense. They've scored at a high level through 4 games in a row. That Western Michigan game, they chose not to do anything after they got up 21-0 to prepare for BC. BC, YSU, USC, they've scored 30-plus points. This is a way better offense than they had last year. USC is a playoff contender. They have tough games against Michigan, Notre Dame, Nebraska, Oregon. Given their run defense and even some aspects of their offense, I think their offense is awesome, but Iowa's defense is also good. Iowa could even be a tough out for them. So I need to see more, but I think both of these teams and programs are heading in the right direction, and I love the staffs that they have. Thank you so much for watching this segment on College Football with Sam. Before we close out here, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, share this video around, Comment your thoughts and analysis down below so I can read them and reply to them if I have the time. Members get priority replies, but I try to reply to everyone. And also hit the notification bell for the channel and also for any team playlists you are interested in. If you want to support the channel financially, you can always super chat me in the comment section, but I prefer that you sign up as a paid member of the Patreon page or as a YouTube member, or that you can purchase some wonderful merchandise to represent us. I'll see you all soon and have a fantastic day.